I started making up some drinks that just have just straight refined sugar in there, just dumping it in just as an experiment, just kind of see. And I kind of started to think to myself, I'm like, I wonder if there's even one person on this planet that can't like digest this pretty well and turn this into energy, there are people that have, fatty liver, and there are people that have insulin sensitivity issues and so forth. So it's going to be a little different for everybody. But I was just thinking, like, this is the thing that everyone talks about and everyone tries to steer people away from. And this seems like a magic supplement. I don't understand why I didn't understand this before, but what do you think it is about like just straight sucrose, just straight table sugar that makes it like a pretty good choice for energy?
So it's basically, as long as you don't have a genetic issue, it's called sucrase isomaltase deficiency, where you basically lack the enzyme to cleave sucrose. Most people are going to digest it fast and high up in the intestine. So like as soon as it drops out of the stomach in the duodenum, boom, that's your small intestine. It's absorbed very easily. Low fermentation potential, very easily digestible, and you can get a high amount of caloric intake and carbohydrates very, very fast and very easily. So it also, the sugar itself has an anti-stress effect. It lowers those hormones because, again, like when you think about cortisol, one of cortisol's main jobs, and glucagon as well, is to provide you with sugars when you don't have enough. So the sucrose, like, well, here's your sugars, you don't need those. And that's why you see when people have candies, sweet things, even the taste of something sweet, or they're given sugar, it lowers those hormones because the body's like, all right, we're good. We got the sugar on board or ready to go. So for most people, it's the ease of digestion and the stress lowering effect of it makes it pretty potent for them. And for athletes, right? So for me, I have a high sugar intake, right? If I work out like 4 or 5 times a week lifting, when I start doing boxing and BJJ plus lifting, going to 500 grams of sugar a day plus 100 grams of fat plus 170 grams of protein, it starts to become a lot of food, like a lot of food.
It's a job.
Yeah, it becomes a job, and I can't eat that much food and whole fruits and potatoes. It's impossible. So juice, honey, maple syrup, sugar, you have to start using some of those things in that circumstance. When you get a little lady, she doesn't really work out, she doesn't really have much muscle tissue, she doesn't really, like, her hormones aren't great because she's in menopause. For her, like, the sugar may not be great because she should be getting some of the more nutrient dense foods. But you start getting athletes. I have a guy I worked with, professional CrossFit athlete, like high level CrossFitter. The guy had, like, his caloric intake was insane. It was like 5,000 calories a day. We're using honey, maple syrup, and sugar, and we're using like ice cream and stuff like this because he needs those calories. So you got to match it. But the sugar, yeah, I mean, the biggest downsides to it, there's not really much micros, but that's why you're getting it from the other portion. You should be getting it from the other portions of your diet. The other thing is, for most people, it should be okay, but you get people who do only sugar as their carb source. That creates dysbiosis in the intestine for them. It's not if you have a little bit of sugar, like you do some juice and some fruit, and then you have some sugar with it. So small amounts, okay. But it's when you really start ramming. Like I had guys, I'm carnivore, and now I'm bioenergetic, so I'm just going to add 300 grams of sucrose to my carnivore diet because fiber is still bad. And it's like, that's not a good idea. That's a pretty bad idea. The other thing is metabolically impaired people, right? When your liver, your cells aren't uptaking fuel fast, you got to think you're driving like a 1980s, like, I don't know, Toyota Celica. And that engine, like, you can't put nitrous on that engine. You'll blow it out. But if you're sitting there and you have a bunch of muscle tissue and a high activity level and you're plowing through substrate, that's a very different circumstance. You may need some nitrous to help get you through what you're going in. So the context becomes important. Then those people that the fuel hits very fast and the systems are already struggling, you're overloading them. And then it can create some problems. The lipid panel doesn't look as good. The liver markers don't look as good. The micronutrient density isn't there. So this is where the context for those things becomes important. I still think fruits and juices are by far the best sugar sources because the polyphenols that they come with and the micronutrients change how they're utilized, shift the microbiome in a beneficial direction, have benefits at the liver and on multiple metabolic pathways. The other thing I'll mention here, Mark, is a little tangential. In Panama, Costa Rica, and Latin America, they have a type of sugar that's not really discussed in the U.S. It's called canela, and it's basically like not massively refined sugar. It's just like the sugar cane juice just kind of dried. It has quite a bit of micronutrients in it, actually. So that, and also blackstrap molasses, which doesn't taste as good as the canela. The canela is pretty good. They're super dense in micronutrients as well. So those are other potential options that people could run with, and they still get copper, potassium, magnesium, some polyphenol compounds, and some minor amounts of B vitamins, but really high mineral content by using those sources if they tolerate them. So here, like I've been using when I was in Costa Rica, I was to support when I was doing the boxing and I was lifting, I was putting a little bit of canela in my juices and in my shakes to hit some of those targets, because it bumped up the mineral intake and gave me a little bit extra carbohydrate, so I didn't have to, break the bank in buying juice.
You mentioned in one of your videos, you talked about like these different fruits, and then you mentioned like a particular fruit, but I never heard of it before. And you were like, it's the best tasting fruit if you could find it. What was that fruit called? Do you remember?
Cherry moya.
Cherry moya. And where do you usually get that from? Or is that like just seasonal?
No, so in Latin America, it's like, and in Portugal, like it's like you can get it all over the place. Basically, it's called custard apple because it has the texture of custard, and it tastes like custard, but it's a fruit, and it's like
Sounds
hands
amazing.
down like the best for me. Like last time I had cherry moya, so you can get it in the U.S. that they have the East-West markets or the Hispanic markets. And Goya and some of these different companies sell it in these frozen packs, like 14-ounce, 16-ounce packs, and it's just the pulp, which is the best because it has these big seeds in it, which are kind of annoying. But when you just get the pulp, because it has the texture of custard, and because it's frozen, it's essentially ice cream, but it's fruit. So I would sit there and I would basically eat like 1 pound of cherry moya in the pack per meal because it was just so good. Like you can't stop eating it. So you can get it in the US. I was getting it in Florida. I was able to get it in Texas, and I was able to get it in New Jersey. So I bet you can get it in California and other places, but it's in the freezer section in these little East-West markets that usually most people don't go to, that don't know about them. And I used to show up there, and the people would be like, what's this gringo doing here in this market, buying up there's passion fruit, soursop, cherry moya, mamey. These are all really delicious fruits. They have different flavor profiles. And I was buying it up there, and I would go in there and I'd buy like all of it. And you'd be like, what is this guy doing? Like, but it's really good. It's like there's a quote from Mark Twain about it. It's like the best fruit, and it really is the best fruit. It's delicious.
How are you not 300 pounds with eating fat and carbs together? Because I thought like there's this thing called the Randall cycle, and poof, you just get like really disgustingly fat if you have carbs and fats together.
So actually, this is timely because I just released a video explaining this, but you're always oxidizing carbs and fats at the same time. All of us are. If you look at something called your respiratory quotient, it tells you the ratio between oxygen uptake and CO2 output. And basically when you eat more carbs, you produce more CO2, so it shifts the respiratory quotient. Essentially, what you have to think about is the Randall cycle refers to one individual cell. It's like you take your skin cell right now, your single skin cell. It's like it won't burn carbs and fats at the same time. It won't. But maybe your skin cell is running on carbs, and your muscle tissue is running on fat, and your brain is running on carbs as well. So like you have billions or trillions of cells that are all using different substrates simultaneously. And so you're always going to have those running at the same time. It's just in that individual cell it becomes a problem if you try to force the oxidation of both fats and carbs, because it's in the mitochondria. The Randall cycle starts to a large extent in the mitochondria. And basically, once you start burning fats, it'll shut down the carb oxidation pathways and shunt those carbs towards lactate production or towards being converted to fatty acids. And when you start using carbohydrates, it just shifts those fats towards being stored. And it's just the body, it's supposed to be there because when you don't have adequate carbs coming in, you're fasting, you're between meals, you run out of glycogen, you're on a low carb diet, your body starts to upregulate fatty acid metabolism to spare that carbohydrate for the brain because it needs it. Your brain can't use fats. It can use ketones, but even if it uses ketones, it's still using a portion of carbohydrate. So you're always going to need it. So your central nervous system in your body is like the most important person. It's the board of the company, and they're going to eat. You know, the janitor and HR, like they're going to get the scraps, but the board is going to eat. That's kind of how the body runs the system.